Welcome to Gingerspyce's Beginner's Guide to the new Cannith Crafting system. Cannith Crafting got a major overhaul in Update 32, and there's been some really awesome changes. Now, this video is going to be designed for people who are totally new to Cannith Crafting, or maybe you worked with the old system and you haven't taken a look at the new system yet. If you're already up and running with the new system, then this video is going to contain nothing for you. Like I said, this is going to be for people who are new to it, so it's going to be more of like an orientation and just really going over the basics so you can get started with Cannith Crafting. Now the good news, if you're new to this, or if you haven't taken a look at the new system yet, is that it's way easier to use than the old system. And it's way better. Now, it's not without its faults, but I really only have two criticisms of the new system, and overall it's a much better system than the old one. So really the first thing that you should do if you want to start Cannith Crafting is decide who you want your crafter to be. Probably your main toon. You don't have to have crafting levels on every toon. You only have to have one toon with crafting levels, and then you can, whatever you craft, you could move around to your other toons. So you really just want to focus on one toon to be your crafter. And then the next thing you want to do is, if you have 50 House Cannith favor, then you want to come up here like I have to the House Cannith vendor, and you're going to want to make sure you talk to the patron here first to sort of turn in your favor to get the favor reward. And getting 50 House C favor will give you access to the House Cannith vendor. Now, in case you're a little bit newer, it's very easy to get House Cannith favor, or maybe you've been playing a while and you're more casual, and a few years ago getting 50 House C favor was a little more challenging, but today really you can just do the 3 flagging quests on Elite and that'll get you your 50, or you could do those on hard and do Brothers of the Forge on hard. I mean, you don't even have to do the raids, and you don't even have to do any of the challenge to get 50 House C favor, and you really should get it. It is more important than ever. Just as before, you're going to get these things called Marks of House Cannith, and I'm going to show you. You can also get minor crafting experience elixirs, and when you're working on leveling, you should at least have one of these going at all times. And then you got 10% crafting success boosters. Again, you should have these at all times. This is the minimum you should be working with. And then most importantly, your Marks of House Cannith. So you're going to want to buy stacks of those. And notice that this stuff is bound to account. So, if you don't have 50 House C favor on your main toon or your toon that you want to be your crafter, you can just go to one of your alts that maybe does have 50 House C favor and buy this stuff up and just move it over in your shared bank. So working on getting, buy some stacks of this stuff first. And then you're going to want to go to the crafting hall. And there's a crafting hall in House Cannith, which is right down there. There's also one in House K. And maybe there's one on your guild ship if you have that guild ship amenity. Now I'm going to go over to the crafting hall in House K. So here I am in the House K crafting hall. And the reason why I wanted to come to this one is because this is the crafting hall in which you can do the crafting tutorial in. You can't do this in the House C crafting hall, and there's no option to do it in the guild ship amenity crafting hall. So you're going to talk to this maker guy here, and he can give you a tiny ingredients bag too. Hopefully you have a larger bag than that. But if you're brand new to it, you can start with that. So you're going to want to do this tutorial. It just takes a couple minutes, and there are a couple rewards that are very significant. One is a plus 75% crafting experience elixir the last 30 minutes, and the other is a stack of 5 25% crafting success booster thingy dingies. And those rewards are actually bound to account, so you can do that tutorial on your alts and then just switch the rewards over to your main crafter through your shared bank. So you definitely want to take time to do that. Like I said, it's very simple. He's going to walk you through it. And then the next thing you want to do is you're going to go over here to the vendor. And you're going to want to pick up some supplies. And so you just want to get some of these dissolvers and some of these dust of disjunction. You're going to want to get a whole bunch of these. I mean, you're going to go through a boatload of dissolvers. So you want to at least start with 100 stack, but you might as well just buy 1,000 stack because you're going to go through those really fast. And then dust of disjunction, you could probably start with like a 50 or 100 stack. It's really, you just buy the stuff with plat. It's really cheap. And so, if you use the old system, and I do want to say too, one of the reasons why I didn't put out this video right away, I would have liked to have gotten it out a little sooner, but, I wanted to learn the system. I also wanted to get capped, but I also wasn't sure exactly where I wanted to go with it. Did I want to spend time comparing the old system to the new system, or did I just want to focus on the new system to avoid confusion? But, I really don't think that there's a good way for me to talk about the new system without at least talking a little bit about the old system and some of the important differences, because I know there's going to be a lot of people watching this video that maybe dabbled with the old system, or, maybe you did craft in the old system and you just haven't played with the new system yet. So you can see you don't have the, the two different kind of dissolver thingies. You don't have the liquid knife potions. There's less here. You just got the dissolvers and the dust of disjunction. Dust of disjunction works the same as before, and then the dissolvers takes place of your Lorendar's thingy and your whatever else it was. So that's one nice thing, is that it's been simplified. In fact, this whole system has been simplified, which it's streamlined. It's just much better than the old system on virtually every measure. So get yourself some supplies. And I also want to show you that you can trade your old essences for the new ones. So your old greater essences can be traded for the new essence at a rate of 1 to 1. And this is another streamlined, beautiful change, is that there's only one essence now. There's not, body essences and mind essences and all the different essences, and there's not lesser and greaters anymore. It's just Cannith Crafting essence, period. That's it. It's so awesome. Just one essence to deal with. So all those old essences you have, you can convert those to the new essences. So the old greaters, again, at a rate of 1 to 1, and you can trade these 1 at a time, 10 at a time, 100 at a time, 5 or 100 or 1,000 at a time. So you don't have to sit there and if you have a stack of 1,000 of the old ones, you don't have to sit there and click it 1,000 times or do the multiplier thing. You just can trade 1,000 at a time. And then your lessers trade at a rate of 5 to 1. So 5 of the old lessers to 1 of the new essences. And you can trade those 5 at a time, 50 at a time, 500 or 1,000 at a time. If you have less than a 5 stack of the old lessers, there's nothing you can do with those. Just throw those out. I also want to show you that you can trade in, just like before, your ability tomes for purified Eberron Dragon Shard fragments. Now before you could only trade up to +2, but now you can trade in up to +5 tomes. So here's a bound to account +4 intelligence tome. And I don't need this, so I'm just going to crunch it here and get 25 purified Eberron Dragon Shard fragments. And you're going to need a lot of these purified Eberron Dragon Shard fragments. They're more important than before. And you can also trade skill tomes, up to +5 skill tomes for purified Eberron Dragon Shard fragments. So for this +1 tome of jump that I don't want, I can get 2 purified Eberron Dragon Shard fragments for that. Pretty cool. Alright, what else can we trade for? So up to +5 stat tomes, up to +5 skill tomes. You can also trade and get purified Eberron Dragon Shard fragments for your tokens of the 12. One token gets you 1 purified Eberron Dragon Shard fragment. Totally awesome. So that's new. You can also have an option to buy them with astral shards here. And you can also trade your old ingredients. So if you still have your parfaits, leading dissolver, and your Lorendar's thing, you can trade those here in your liquid knife potions for the new mats. And let's see, is there anything else? I guess that's it. So trade all your old stuff in for new stuff, and this is also a great place to, if you have maybe like bound character stat tomes that are redundant, maybe you got a bound tome from a raid, and it's bound to character, you can't move it, you already have your stat already that high, or, the +2 tome that you get from the 1715 favor reward every life, that can be crunched too. And like I said, you're going to need a lot of these purified Eberron Dragon Shard fragments. Oh, there was one other thing. You can trade your small, medium, and large Eberron Dragon Shard fragments for the purified Eberron Dragon Shard fragments. So your smalls, you get 1 for small. Your mediums, you get 2 of the purifieds for each medium. And then your larges, you get 3 purified Eberron Dragon Shards for each large Eberron Dragon Shard. That's a mouthful. Alright. So those are your supplies that you need and how to convert your old stuff to the new stuff. So you came in here, right? And you saw all these confusing symbols on the wall. And you saw the coffee maker here, or the coffee grinder. And you saw all these crafting stations, bound, unbound, and you got overwhelmed. And you just said, screw it, I don't want to deal with this right now. Well, I'm going to try to break it all down for you and make it accessible. That's really what my videos are about. A major theme throughout my videos is making DDO accessible to you. So I really want you to be able to craft. It's a great system. It's better than the old one. It's easy to use. But if nobody shows you how, it can be a little intimidating, and I understand that. So let's go over what these crafting stations are. And there are 2 different sides to the crafting hall. And they're both the same. Essentially the same. One side has a bank and the other side has an auctioneer. But other than that, they're both the same. So this first station, the coffee grinder here, this is where you're going to crunch your junk loot into essences. And it's also where you're going to prep a crafting blank for crafting. And I'm going to show you how to do that. Now, these next 2 stations are your bound crafting stations. Here, the bound shards device station is where you're going to make the shards to make your items. You're actually crafting shards and adding them to a prepared crafting blank. You're not just making an item outright. You're actually taking an existing item that you've prepped for crafting, that you've turned into a blank, and you're adding shards to it. So this is where you make those shards. And then over here at the bound item station is where you're going to add the shards to your crafting blank. And so the bound stations, this means that the stuff that you craft is going to be bound to account. And even the items that you finish, like the shards are bound to account. So you can craft them on your crafter and then move them over to your other toon. And any toon, you can have 0 levels in crafting. Any toon can assemble the items. You just need to have one crafter to actually make the shards. But one important difference between the new system and the old system is that even the items that you create when you finish crafting it, the item is bound to account. Before it was bound to character. So now you can make sort of generic items, like a constitution item or whatever, and for leveling, and then once that goes back in the bank because you've out leveled it, you can move that to an alt instead of it being bound to that character. So that's a totally awesome change. So these 2 are your bound crafting stations. And then I already showed you the vendor there. And then these 2 stations here are the unbound crafting stations. And so over here is where you're going to craft unbound shards. And one of the huge differences between the old system and the new system is that you can craft everything unbound. Before, there was a limit to what you could craft unbound. You couldn't craft everything unbound. Now you can craft everything unbound. Totally awesome. But it's a lot more expensive to craft things unbound than it is to make them bound for yourself. So, unbound shards meaning, you could sell them on the auction house, you can give them to a friend. And, another important difference, another important difference is that, I said that the unbound shards are a lot more expensive than the bound shards. But overall, your the shards that you make are more expensive than before. And the implications of that are that, like in the old system, if you were a crafter and your friends needed you to craft something for them, it didn't, you probably had a boatload of essences, and there wasn't really a whole lot else to it. Maybe a couple minor collectibles. Usually it was no big deal. And if your friends wanted something, you could just craft it for them, and it was no skin off your back. Well, in this new system, they actually, all those old collectibles that we've been collecting over the years, those are all used now, and some of them in large quantities, like 30 stacks and 10 stacks and 5 stacks. So the point is that, even when you max out your crafting levels, you're not just going to be able to craft everything for your friends, like, for free. Like, they're basically going to have to give you the ingredients to craft with, because if you're just crafting stuff and giving it away to your friends and getting nothing in return, you're going to find yourself out of collectibles really fast. Even if you've been playing this game for years, again, some of these collectibles require 30 per shard, so you can go through those collectibles really quick. Okay, so the shards are unbound. You can pass them to a friend. You sell them on the auction house, and then so that's where you make the unbound shards, and here's where you assemble the unbound item. And so the actual item you make is unbound, and even when you equip it, it's unbound. So that's another big difference. Totally awesome. Okay, what next? Let's go over to the coffee grinder here and make some coffee. So click on the coffee grinder, and it doesn't go ka-chunk ka-chunk anymore. So if you play if you played with this system before, and the little handle would turn, it would make some funny sounds. And all the crafting stations made some funny sounds. They actually took those animations out, and it has made things a lot less laggy in the crafting hall. So that was, I don't know if that was causing the lag or what, but things are less laggy now in the crafting hall, which is really awesome. No more animations. No more funny sound effects. Alright, so like I said already, you're not making an item outright. You're actually taking an existing item and making a crafting blank out of it. So what I mean is that, so you're not just going to make a sword. You're going to take an existing sword that you find, like let's say you wanted to craft a longsword. You need to start with a longsword, and any old longsword you want, just a junk longsword, and then you can prep that for crafting. So I just have this +4 silver returning throwing axe, and I'm going to use this as a crafting blank to use as an example. And so to make a crafting blank out of it, I'm just going to stick it in here and then click Disjunct. Don't click Dissolve. That will destroy the item outright. So you could be very sad if you had a nice blank that you wanted to craft onto, and you accidentally hit Dissolve. It's destroyed. You're not getting it back. Dissolving is for when you want to get essences out of an item. So this is another important point. You want to save your junk loot. In fact, I would recommend that if you're going to get serious about crafting, that you, on all your alts, move your trash loot over in the shared bank and pull it out on your crafter, and then on your crafter, dissolve all those items. You're going to get a small amount of XP for a crafting experience for dissolving an item. But again, that destroys it outright. You get a little bit of plat, and you get some essences for that. So that's how you're building up your essences. You're not going to get as much plat as if you were to sell it, but you do get a little. So you want to click Disjunction if you want to make a crafting blank out of it. So what you're basically doing is stripping all the properties off of that item and turning it into a crafting blank, ready for crafting. So hit Disjunct, and I chose this item because I wanted to show you that the metallic properties of the base item will persist even after it's disjuncted. So this shows you the value of certain crafting blanks. So if you have like a silver longsword, or in this case a silver returning throwing axe, it's going to stay silver. Totally awesome. Similarly, if you have an item with a slot on it, so here I have a set of goggles that I've already turned into a crafting blank, and it retains that empty green slot. And so I can craft onto that, And one of the huge differences between the old system and the new system is that when you're working with an item with a slot, it doesn't increase the minimum level like before. Now you can see that this goggles with nothing on it says minimum level 5. Well, that's sort of a remnant, sort of left over from the old system. When we go to craft onto it, that minimum level won't apply. We're going to be applying a new minimum level to it, and I'm going to show you what I mean. Okay, so here's my silver returning throwing axe. So let's do something with that. So another difference between the old system and the new is you don't have, if you remember the old shard of potential system where you had to keep putting shards of potential to sort of work up, essentially working up the minimum level of that item, in a manner of speaking. But that, they've gotten rid of that. Thank God. That was ridiculous. So the new system, what that's replaced with is something much easier. So you can see that there are these minimum level shards. And so all you're doing is crafting one minimum level shard. So, if you're a level 10 toon, then you want to make that item level 10. It's that easy. You just pick whatever level that you want that item to be. So let's go ahead and make a minimum level 10 shard here. Now here it's just showing you the crafting level that's required to craft a level 10 shard, minimum level shard, level 100. And I have a 100% chance to craft that. Now if you hit your character sheet and go over the crafting tab, you can see there's only one crafting school now. There used to be 3. There's only 1. If you had levels in the old system, they will translate to the new system. There's a mathematical formula to convert all those old levels to the new system. The max level in the new system is 400. I'm going to say this too, level 400 isn't all it's cracked up to be, but I'll talk more about that later. Alright, so I'm going to make a minimum level 10 shard. Okay? And then let's see some property to add to that. Let's just do, let's see, fire. I don't want to do that one because I don't have that many marks of the keeper. Let's see. Do acid. Phoenix Tavern Purchaser. Okay, we're just going to do this. We'll do an acid effect shard. We'll go ahead and craft that. Alright. So now we've crafted a couple shards here. Now we're going to go over to the bound item crafting device. And I'm going to take my blank, and the first thing you want to do is apply that minimum level shard to it. So I'm going to scroll down here, and there's my minimum level shard. Stick my item in there, hit craft, and now it's minimum level 10. Now notice that it says +4 on it. This is another important difference when you're doing like weapons and armor, is that the plus is automatically added. Before you were manually adding whatever plus you wanted, and that would affect the minimum level of the item. In the new system, the plus is scaled to whatever the minimum level is. So for like in this example, it's a level 10 item, and so it scales that to a +4 item. That's the plus that's appropriate for a level 10 item. So you're not selecting the plus of the item, you're selecting the minimum level, and then the plus is added accordingly. So now that we've added the minimum level shard to it, you can see that it says Cannith Crafting prefix slot, suffix slot, and that may sound familiar if you've used the old system because that's what we had before. But it also says Cannith Crafting Mark of House Cannith slot. So this is the difference between the old Mark of House Cannith and the new, or at least the old effect and the new effect. So the old effect used to reduce the minimum level by 2, and that was very significant. It was really helpful when you were leveling. That's gone. And that was upsetting for some people, and I was a little upset at first too. But the reality is, what it does now is so much better. You're actually adding a third slot to it. Okay? And it's that sort of bonus slot that you sometimes see on random loot. So if you've been playing for a little while, you've probably noticed that some of your randomly generated loot has, like, you know, your normal 2 things on it, but then it might have like a bonus thing like insightful, you know, insightful strength +4 or something, or insightful something, like that bonus, that special bonus that appears sometimes. That's what your Mark of House Cannith adds. So you can put like an insightful stat on there too. Totally awesome. And you can craft up to like insightful stat 7. It's sweet. Alright. So, fire. Oops. I guess I selected the wrong thing. Let's just double check our work here. Fire effect shard. That seems like it should be right. Maybe I'll just try manually putting it in there, see what happens. Oh, I forgot that I chose the acid. Acid. Okay, there it is. Okay, so there's my acid. I'm gonna craft that. Okay, and look what it does. Weapon. It says weapons acid effect +3, additional 3d6 acid damage. So again, we're not selecting the amount of acid damage that it was doing. Before, like Noel's system was just 1d6 period. Here, we're not selecting the amount. It's scaled to whatever is appropriate for the level that you put on it. In this case, level 10. So 3d6 is the appropriate amount of damage, or the scaled amount of damage for a level 10. Okay, and now I can put a suffix on there too, which I'm not going to. I just wanted to show you how to add it. But let's see. Let's also do, so just showing you here that you use your Mark of House Cannith, and I don't know why it shows up here twice. This second one seems to be redundant and doesn't seem to do anything. But just, you know, just pick this first one. You hit craft, okay, and now it says Cannith Crafting extra slot, and you can craft that extra power to it, like, you know, insightful, whatever. I'm not going to put anything like that on there because it's actually really expensive. But there's some really amazing things that you can put on there, and you know, you want to look at the crafting planner, which I'm going to go over, and there's some great links on DDO Wiki, which I'm going to go over. You want to take a look at the things you can put on there, because really, really powerful stuff. Alright, so that's how to prep an item for crafting, how to make some shards, how to make a minimum level shard, and apply your shard. So, you know, your blank items retain some of those sort of base properties, like the metallic properties. Now, metalline is not a metal type property. Metalline is an enchantment, so it wouldn't preserve that. But things like adamantine, cold iron, silver, biash, those will all persist, as well as slots, again, like this green slot that I have here. Now, I do want to show you, because I mentioned that that doesn't affect the level. So I'm just going to craft a minimum level 1 shard. And I want to show you that when I take this item with the green slot and it says minimum level 5, as soon as I put that minimum level 1 shard on there, check it out, it's level 1. So again, I'm emphasizing that when there is a slot on your crafting blank, it doesn't affect the minimum level anymore like it used to in the old system. So that's pretty huge. Another thing I want to mention about that extra Cannith slot is that you can't put that on an item that's lower than level 10. Having that extra slot is pretty powerful, and so that's sort of the minimum level that you can put that extra slot on. And I'll also say, too, that there are certain shards that are supposed to have certain minimum levels associated with them, like True Seeing, like Invulnerability, but some of them aren't working as intended right now, and there are some pretty good notes in the crafting planner, which I will show. Alright. I also want to show you that you can craft these rune stones here. And these are the same as before. There's like a petrifying rune stone, there's a stunning rune stone, and I can't remember the other one, but they're kind of neat little toys. And there's like a minor version, a greater version, a major version, just like before. They're exactly the same as before. But let's see, if I just type runestone in here, it should come up. So stun runestone, flash runestone, petrifying. So this is just an example of the major petrifying runestone. Bound to account, minimum level 17. So you can turn, this is like a flesh to stone on a single mob. And it's a DC of 39, so for like a level 17, if you're level 17, DC of 39 is pretty good. So you can, especially if you're like a melee toon and you don't have any really good crowd control, this is a really neat way to stone a mob. It does have kind of a longer cooldown, so you can't just sit there and spam it, but this can be a nice, fun, handy toy to have on hand. Alright, what's next? How do you level? Well, the good news is that leveling in this new system is a lot easier than the old system. In fact, it's really designed to level. Like, they really just sort of basically put a ladder there for you to climb. And so the way that you're going to level in this new system is just by crafting minimum level shards. Okay, so if you've never crafted before, you're going to start off making these minimum level 1 shards, and it's going to show you the percentage that you have. And remember, you can put those crafting success booster thingy dingies. You can use those to increase your chances. And also remember that you want to have, when you're crafting, or at least when you're leveling, when you're making a bunch of these shards, you're going to sit down for a while and focus on raising your levels. You want to have an experience elixir going, at least that 10% one that you can get from that house Cannith vendor. But if you're going to get serious about it, you might even want to, you can get that 75% one that you get from the tutorial. I think you can get a 100% one from the store. Those are going to be really helpful for you to extend your resources, extend your essences. Okay, so you're going to just come in here and you're going to make like a minimum level 1 shard, or whatever whatever you have a decent percent chance to craft. Like if you already have levels, you wouldn't be doing level 1. So you want to look to see like what your percent to craft it is and how much crafting XP. You can see right here it says what crafting XP. I'm not getting anything. I'm already capped. But so you're going to look at which one is giving you some XP and that you have a decent percent chance to craft. And so these success booster thingy dingies go right here. And so these are going to be really important. You always want to have at least those 10% ones that you get from the vendor. But maybe like when you're trying to craft something, that's just beyond your level reach, and you have a really low percentage, these things can be huge. Again, this stuff is pretty expensive, and you don't want to waste those materials. When you do fail an attempt, you don't lose all the ingredients, but you do lose a significant portion of them. And so some of these collectibles are hard to come by, and you don't want to just lose a whole bunch of them, because that really sucks. So you're coming along here, you look at which one you have a good percent chance, and if you're like me, you're like, oh, 10%, Daddy's feeling lucky, pull the slot machine lever, let's do this. I'm really bad about that. maybe you're a little bit more conservative and you want to get closer to 100%, uh, whatever percent you feel comfortable with. Uh, the and you also want to make sure you're getting a decent amount of XP out of it, and the more you craft that shard, the less and less XP you get out of it until you grind it down to 0. And you don't want to necessarily grind it down to 0 because it's costing essences. Right now it's only 10 for a level 1, 20 for a level 2, 30 for a level 3, so it's not that much. But you start working up, and there's more and more essences. You're talking hundreds of essences once you get up there, and you don't want to burn 300 essences and get 10 crafting XP out of it. That sucks. So you want to make sure you get a decent amount of crafting XP, and so you burn through the level 1s until till there's a diminishing returns, and you start working on the level 2s until you have a diminishing returns of XP. Then you start working on the level 3s, and then working on the level 4, and then the 5, and then like I said, this is a ladder that's there for you to work all the way up. This is how you're going to increase your levels. And the cool thing is, in the old system, in order to increase your levels, you basically had to make a bunch of shards, and usually that meant a bunch of shards you weren't ever going to use, and you just had to re-crunch those. Well, here, you're making all these minimum level shards. Hang on to them, because you're going to eventually use them. And these are bound to account. Even these bound ones are bound to account, so you'll be able to use them on other tunes. You don't want to just crunch these back because you don't really get much out of them. I would recommend that you keep these minimum level shards that you're crafting as you're working up your levels. Now, you can also get XP from actually doing the crafting, actually making the shards, like the acid shard that I made, and assembling the item. You're going to get XP out of that too. But if you're just leveling, if you're just going for the sake of leveling, you just want to work this ladder of minimum level shards and just keep going all the way up until you get all the way up to power level 34 shards. It's minimum level 30, but it's sort of like power equivalency of level 34. And what that's going to do when you work all the way up that ladder, that's going to take you to a point where you're going to be able to craft everything for yourself. So what level is that? Like I said, the max level is 400, but the highest that you need to be to craft stuff for yourself is like level 340. You can see it only goes up to 340 here on the bound shard station. So let me see. I'm going to set the level range here to 300 just to show what is between 300 and 340. It's only power level shards. Okay, so even that, so the highest level for a bound item is 340. And you're going to have a percent chance to craft that even before you get there. So once you start getting in the low 300s, you're going to have a chance to craft this. But 340, you'll have a 100% chance to craft. And that's as high as you need to go if you're only planning on crafting for yourself and for your alts. You only need to go past 340 if you want to craft for others. And I will say this too, this is a very important point. In the old system, it was great to max out your levels, to craft for others. In this new system, if you don't want to try to go past this unless you are very serious about crafting for others. It's great if you do that. It's a great service. If maybe you want to be that crafter for your guild. Like, I'm a leader in my guild, I want to be able to craft everything for my guildies. That's very important to me. But unless you're really serious about wanting to be able to have that ability to craft for others, then you don't need to worry about going past the low 300s. It is a very, very serious grind to try to get up to 400. Now, you can work up these power level shards, these minimum level shards, up to about, I think I got up to about 380 without a problem. But I spent, it took me like 250,000 essences to get there. But I will say, I wasn't burning the biggest pot. I was taking some chances and not using success boosters. So I could have been a lot more efficient. I was just day one so excited to get as high as I could that I was just I wasn't being as efficient as I could. So I'm not trying to say you're going to need 750,000 or 250,000 shards or essences to get up to 380, excuse me if I said 280 before, 380 is what you can get up to pretty easily, which is working up the shards, the minimum level shards. You know, you could probably do it with a lot less than that, but you're going to need a ton of essences. And so that's one of your limiting factors in terms of working out. You're going to need a lot of essences. You know, here it's like to make these minimum level 30 shards, for example, I mean, it's 300 essences just to make one. I wanted to add a bit here about high-end leveling. But first, before I do that, another tip about leveling is, you know, as you're working up the ladder of these minimum level shards, if you get to a point where you're just not comfortable with the, you know, low percentage, what you can do is bounce over here to the unbound shard station and then check out the percentages there for the unbound minimum level shards, and you're going to want to bounce back and forth as appropriate. So that's going to be actually a really helpful tip for you, and for you to leverage those better percentages so you're not failing as much. So when it comes to that high-end leveling, you know, let's say you want to be able to craft everything for your friends and guildies, or maybe you're just OCD. Whatever the case, like I said, with just walking up that ladder of minimum level shards, you can get to about 380. But that trek from 380 to 400 is a really painful journey, because you can't get, there's nothing left out of minimum level shards. So now you're actually having to craft shards, and so I want to mention that. So at that point, you're going to be crafting. The only thing that's there is level 375 shards, and there's just a oops, I want to change this to actually it was the 400 shards. So once you get to that 380 point, you're going to have this list of just a couple of pages here of these level 400 shards, and these are all like a lot of the non-scaling shards. So again, I'm at the unbound shard station, and you're going to have to make a craft unbound shards. There's nothing left at this level range to do bound. Remember what I said, like level 340, that's it for bound stuff. You go beyond that, you're only in the unbound range, and if you want to go past about 380, you're going to have to start crafting shards, and it's these level 400, and you're going to start off with a relatively low percentage, but you want to use your crafting success boosters. And you can see, like, they're expensive: 30 ritual candles, 10 blister beetles, 5 prismatic dust, 10 purified aberrant dragon shard fragments. And so to put a number on that for you, I had to craft about 35 of these in order to work up from like 380 to about 396, and that was with 75% crafting experience elixir going, and for part of that time there was the it was a bonus weekend with the plus 25% crafting XP bonus on top of all of that. So it was like about 35 shards that I had to craft to get up to 396. And then at 396, then I was starting to have a chance to craft these level 425 shards, and this is the highest tier that's possible. And you can see, even being capped at level 400, that's the highest you can go, you only have a 16% chance to craft that. Now, when I reached 396 with my plus 75% pot and the plus 25% universal bonus that was going on, I only had to craft one shard successfully, and it blew me right up from 396 to 400 with one successful crafting. So that was really awesome. But there's nothing beyond 400, and the way that you sort of increase your ability beyond that is to just keep crafting these shards. So at 400, I have a 16% chance to craft Insightful Strength shard. But every every time you successfully craft 2 of whatever shard, your chance will increase by about 3%. So you can see, like, I've crafted several Insightful Intelligence shards, so I have my base chance up to 26%. But if I put, like, my success boosters in there, and I select my Intelligence shard, oops, then I get it up to 51%. And a lot of these are, high-end collectibles. Some of them are really rare and expensive, but there are some great farms. I showed you those links, so you're going to want to figure out where to farm that stuff. But I really wanted to give you an idea of what it was going to take to get up there, and even when you are at 400, showing you that you don't have a 100% chance to craft this high-end stuff. Like, you only have a chance, craft 2 successful. It goes up by about 3 or 4% each time you craft 2 of those successfully. So important to be aware of that. Like I said, if you want to max out your levels, you should only do that if you're really serious about wanting to craft for your friends, and even then you should know, like, you're not going to have a 100% chance right away, and it's painful to, these are expensive ingredients, really rare ingredients, and when you fail an attempt, it sucks. One other thing that you can do, when you're crunching, higher end trash loot, you're getting 5 experience every time you crunch something. Now, that is a very small amount of experience, but it does add up. Unfortunately, you crafting experience elixirs in the bonus weekend, that didn't affect the amount of experience I was getting from crunching. I was just getting 5 XP for crunching the lower end loot. You're not going to get 5 per, but the most you're ever going to get is 5 experience for crunching the stuff into essences, for dissolving it. And like I said, that will add up. I know that I got probably at least a couple levels out of that because I was crunching so much loot. I was moving all my trash loot over to my main crafter here, and it will add up. So if you want to look at it more of a long-term project, once you get to your high 300s, you can just start dissolving everything on your crafter, and you will eventually get to 400. It might take you 6 months to get there with just getting 5 XP per item that you dissolve, but you will eventually get there. So I wanted to put a very realistic picture of what it is like to get that last step and what you get when you finally get there. So when you start getting up here, you really want to make sure you're using crafting experience elixirs that save those 75% ones you get from the crafting tutorial for when you get a little bit higher level and you start to really really cash in on that bigger XP, and use those crafting success booster thingies too, so that you're not losing a bunch of ingredients because you're failing. You want to reduce your failures as much as possible. So you only need to get it that high to do like 340 to get power level 34 shards. So what's the highest? I think is it 275 is your highest? Like actual so like your insightful strength shards, insightful dexterity, your insightful ability, insightful physical magical sheltering, insightful assassinate, insightful spell saves, insightful combat mastery. So this is the highest set of shards that you can possibly craft for yourself. These are level 275 is the highest thing. You see, it's a very short list, but this is the really awesome stuff. This is the stuff that you're putting in that extra Cannith slot that you're using the Markup House Cannith to add to your blank. And at power level 34, you're getting like Insightful Constitution 7. Totally awesome. At power level 34, your base ability score plus 15. Totally awesome. Now this will get to one of my gripes of the new system, is that you cannot craft equivalent to the highest possible randomly generated item. So for example, you can find random gen stat 17 items, and I believe random gen insightful stat 8, and I believe random gen insightful spell focus 4. Well, you can only craft up to stat 15, insightful stat 7, insightful spell focus 3, for example. So random gen can potentially produce a little bit higher than what you can craft. So that's a little frustrating for me. I'd like to see them add some way to get there, even if it was really expensive, or higher level or whatever. I'd like to see some way to get there, but it is what it is. That's what it is. My other gripe with this system is, in the old system we had something that was called flexible shards, and that allowed you to take maybe some like ability that wouldn't normally go in a certain slot and make it so that it could. So for example, dexterity doesn't usually go on a cloak. But if you made a flexible dexterity shard in the old system, you could then put the dexterity on the cloak. Well, there's nothing like that. It's much more restrictive in terms of what you can put where, and it generally follows the same guidelines of randomly generated loot. So, for example, like intelligence and wisdom go on goggles. I believe it can also go on ring. I mean, there are other places you go. I can go trinket and rings, or don't quote me on that. But it's not. You can't just put intelligence, for example, onto any item. You're not going to be able to put intelligence on a belt, for example. But you got your crafting planner. There's a new crafting planner that I'm gonna go over, and that's gonna help you figure out where you can put which slots you can put attributes on, or which equipment slots you can put these things on. All right. I feel like I may have not made myself clear earlier, so I just want to show you, if you take your junk loot, I said take your junk loot, and you're going to crunch it down, and you're going to get some essences. So here I dissolved that, and what did I get for that? I got 4 Cannith essences out of that. So not a whole lot. It was a very low level item. But you want to crunch your trash loot, and that's how you're going to build up a supply of essences. Alright, let's take a look at the crafting planner and see how that works. Alright, here is the new Cannith Crafting Planner. And props to whoever put this together. This is a really nice little tool. And so let me show you how this works, because there's a lot on the screen here, and it can be a little overwhelming. So over here on the side is where you're going to select the type of item that you want. I'm just going to select a ring. And then up here is where you select the minimum level. So let's just say minimum level 10 ring. If I go less than 10, remember what I said earlier, that extra slot won't be available. Notice that it's not available here. Go to 9, still not available. It says right here, there is no extra slot on item with minimum level under 10. But as soon as we go to 10, now I can start selecting things there. And so it has this pull down menu. It shows you what can go into a ring for the prefix. See, this is the prefix here, and here's the suffix, and here's the extra. So you can select from this list, and let's just say I want to have a ring with Constitution on it. Okay? And it's going to show you here what it costs to make a Constitution shard. And remember, we're not making it like a Constitution 6 shard like in the old system. We're just making a Constitution shard. And it's going to scale that Constitution to whatever minimum level our item is. So in this case, a level 10 item, it says it's going to produce Constitution 6. Totally awesome. And here it says, here's your bound info. It's going to require Cannith Crafting level of 100. It's going to require 100 essences. It's going to require 15 runic parchment collectibles and 5 glass files. That's to make it bound for yourself. If you want to make it unbound, now you got to have level 250 to make an unbound Constitution shard. It's going to cost you 500 essences. It's going to cost you 2 purified Eberron Dragon Shard fragments. It's going to cost you 30 runic parchment, with 10 glass files and 2 executioner beetles. It's crazy, isn't it? So this gets back to the point. This gets back to my point earlier. Like, you're not just gonna be able to craft all willy nilly for your friends because you start doing that, you just like giving away stuff. Like, you're gonna run out of your collectibles really freaking fast. Now, I'm not trying to say you shouldn't help out your buddies, but you probably should make it clear, like, I'm happy to craft for you, but I'm gonna need you to provide the ingredients because I don't know what you think I am, made of money and essences or what. Because yeah, I mean, 500 essences, that's pretty steep. 30 runic parchment. And that's just for one constitution shard. Now they're like, well, but I wanted something else on there too. I wanted you to put false life on the item too. And you're like, that's fine. I can do that for you. But it's going to cost me 300 more essences. It's going to cost me 2 more purified Eberron Dragon Shard fragments. It would cost me 30 pages torn from a researcher's notebook. And 10 vials of pure water and 2 pale creepers. Again, lots of collectibles are used. But they're like, I want something in the extra slot too. And you're like, okay, what do you want? And they're like, I want insightful constitution, man, because it's totally rad. And you're like, okay, but that's going to cost 850 frickin' essences just for that, in addition to all this other stuff. And then it's going to cost 10 purified Eberron Dragon Shard fragments. And it's going to cost 30 ancient texts and 10 hairy trumpets and 5 vials of dragon's blood ink. If you're like, what the heck is a hairy trumpet and a vial of dragon ink? Well, those are some of the new collectibles that were added with this new system. Update 32, when they brought out this new system, they brought out a bunch of new collectibles that are sort of used for the high-end stuff. And there's some great links. I'm going to put a link in the description of the video that has the link to this crafting planner and a link that talks about where to farm the collectibles. So if you find yourself looking for certain types of collectibles, you want to read through this link, and it gives you a bunch of examples where to find. But check this out. Okay, let's say you're like, where the hell do I get vials of dragon's blood ink from? You hover over it, and this awesome tooltip comes up. It says you need to be in a level range 26 plus quest. This is one of the rare collectibles of the arcane variety. So there are certain types of collectibles. You know how you have adventures packs and piles of bones and moss, and this is of the arcane variety. So I think that's bookshelves and cabinets. Don't quote me on that, but I think that's what drops arcanes. And it says right here, for farming it, Desecrated Temple of Vol on Epic Casual, Multitude of Menace, Epic Casual, A Cabal for 1, Epic Elite, Mask of Deception, Epic Casual, Terminal Delirium, Epic Normal, Through a Mirror Darkly, Epic Normal. Who's giving you some suggestions of where you can farm those at. Totally freaking awesome. Again, mad props to whoever put this together. This is a really nice tool. It's a little busy. That's my only critique of this. Is it's just, I don't know. Maybe things are a little bit more separated. But it's totally awesome. I freaking love it. Really, really appreciate this, guys. Okay. So, each of these pull-down menus will I've already selected ring. It's only going to come up with what's available for a ring, prefix, suffix, extra, that Cannith, Mark of House Cannith extra slot that you apply. It shows you the value, con 6. That's what is a minimum level 10 item is going to scale to con 6. A minimum level 10 item is going to scale to false life 21. And a minimum level 10 item is going to scale to insightful constitution 2. So again, you're crafting an insightful constitution shard. And if you put that on a minimum level 10 item, that value is going to be 2. It's important to note too, somebody was just asking me this, you can't change the minimum level later. Once you add that minimum level to that item, that's it. If you're going to want to try to redo that, you got to redisjunct it and turn it back into a crafting blank and start all over. You can't add levels to it. You can't change the minimum level. It would be really neat if they had done that. It would have been a lot more efficient. It would have saved a lot of ingredients, but that is the way that it works. So the things that you can put on there, the power level that it's going to be, or the value it's going to be, this is the cost to make it bound. This is the cost to make it unbound. This is the total cost altogether, all this, to make it bound. This is the total cost altogether to make it unbound. So if your Joker friend's like, well, I want to make this, you know, and you're like, well, it's really expensive, and he's like, well, how much is it going to be? You don't have to type it all in. Like, look at this. I'm just going to hit highlight that, copy it, and I'm going to paste it in here. And I've noticed sometimes when I do that, like some of it doesn't come out right. But even what I want to show you, usually you can play with it. Just copy and paste. If you don't know the controls, you can right click that, copy. But if you didn't know, you can copy and paste here in DDO just by using Control V or Control C to copy and Control V to paste. That's the same as any Windows application. So if somebody ever like sends you a tell with a link, you don't have to sit there and like handwrite it down. You just highlight it with your cursor and hit Control V to or Control C to copy and Control V to paste. So here it's just showing you like even the essence cost, purified Eberron dragon shard fragments. The reason why I'm showing you this written out is because look, it just showed a symbol for purified Eberron dragon shard fragment and it showed a symbol for the essences, but when you paste it, it actually writes it out. So it's pretty cool. See, purified Eberron dragon shard fragment, says it right there. But here there was just a symbol. So the total cost is written up here. Okay, what else? So if you want, you can add your colored slots. This is another important point. So at least a year ago, maybe it was 2 years ago, there used to be these double slotted items. Okay, like I think I have them on this. You can see there's a colorless slot and a yellow slot that I used as a crafting light. So this is an example of something I crafted. This is minimum level 30, but it is power level 34. I think it's power level 34. Maybe I screwed that up. I'm going to have to check that because I feel like it should say that somewhere and it doesn't. Oh, well, in any event, double slotted items, they don't drop anymore. But I had this on another tune. It was already bound. Okay? So if you had like a crafting blank, you used the old system, you had some crafting blanks on it, you see a really nice, Kopesh with a red slot and it was silver and totally awesome, but it's bound on some other frickin' tune. You're like, I don't want another tune, I want this other tune. Well, guess what? You can make it bound to account. So what you're going to do is you're going to go on whatever tune where it was bound, that old crafting blank, or maybe you have an old double slotted item on a different tune, you wanted to move it, you just go to that tune, stick it in the coffee grinder, disjunct it. It's still going to be bound to character though when you disjunct it. As soon as you add the minimum level to it though, then it will become bound to account. Then you can move it over. Totally freaking awesome. So that's what happened with this boot. It's like I had these boots on a different alt that I wasn't really using anymore, and it's like, man, I really want these for Gingerspyce. So I made them bound to account, moved them right over. Okay, what else? Here's you select your item, went over all this stuff. Your crafting guide, this is just a link to the basics that Turbine put up there for you if you want to read through that. I think I've pretty much gone through all that. The Gear Master is kind of a neat little tool. And I haven't played with this too much. So you're going to want to play with this, if you're going to get serious about crafting. But I'm just going to show you an example of one of the uses that I've found for it. So let's say, for example, I wanted to, I'm like, okay, I really want to make a resistance item. And I'm going to use this to figure out where can I put resistance. So I'm going to check all the possible slots here. I just want to see, where resistance could go. Okay, generate table of results. And it shows you, okay, you can put resistance on a gloves as a suffix. You could put resistance on a helmet as a suffix. You can put it as bracers as a prefix. You can put it on a trinket as a prefix or a suffix. Let's say I was to, let's say I wanted to have parrying as well. Generate table. So it shows you here, like, parrying can go on a helm as a suffix. Parrying can go on boots or belt as a suffix. It can also go in the extra Cannith slot on your armor or your bracers. So this is a neat little tool. Again, I haven't played a whole lot with it, so I can't, you know, there might be other really neat things that you can do with it. Uh, I just wanted to show you that this was available, and I have used it on occasion. I have found it valuable. Uh, so play around with it. There's also some great uh, links down here. So these are some wiki links. So this shows you, this is a great grid of like, this shows you what can go on a belt and the prefix, suffix, extra, and then boots and all your different slots. Okay, and then here's a list of your non-scaling shards. So there's shards like aligned, blindness immunity, blue shine, death block. All these things, they don't scale with level. And so it shows you like, you know, how many essences you need. It's all the different, you know, what crafting level you need, bound, unbound, all this stuff. What you know, what are the collectibles that are needed. So that's a great link that and resource you can use. Here's a link for scaling shards, scaling info. This is a really nice little spreadsheet, so it shows you. And let's just see. So this insightful spell site 11, balance 22, pairing 7. Let's see if that's actually all the way up to 34. So this is showing you the minimum level of the item and what the ability will be. So like an ability score like Constitution, a minimum level one item will be 1, 2, 3 will be 2. Once you get up to minimum level 4, it's going to be 3 Constitution, 5 will be 4 Constitution, and so on. So what did I have on those boots? I had pairing. Where's pairing at down here? There it is. Pairing 7. Yeah, that was right. And then I had insightful, yeah, 11, and then skill 22. Yeah, so that's right. Because if it was only 30, like it sort of seems to say, 30 is this blue line here. The pairing would have only been 6. So that's interesting that it says minimum level 30, but there's no indication anywhere here that that's a power level 34 minimum level. It's minimum level 30, but power level 34. So this is a nice table. Take a look at that. And collectible info. The level range. The type of item, is it an arcane lore, natural, or cultural item? And then, like I said, I'm going to put one more link in the video description. Alright, here's the other link that I'm going to put in the video description. So somebody has a really nice write-up of how to farm the new collectibles efficiently. So I'm not going to go over all this right now. It's a really nice write-up. You're going to want to read through this if you feel like you need collectibles or short on collectibles. Really awesome job. Alright, well, I think that's everything I want to go over. I hope that that Cannith Crafting and the new system has been demystified for you enough for you to come in here and try it out. There's lots of great stuff that you can do. Like I said, it's easier than the old system. Give it a try. If you have any questions about my videos, you can respond on YouTube. And if you are on Sarlona, you are welcome to send me a tell.